Hey, this is Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid, and I have issue number 3 of G.I. Joe and the Transformers. Things are starting to heat up, and we've got on the cover here, we've got Omega Supreme, the Baroness, and we got Shockwave, Serpentor, Hawk, Dr. Mindbender, and let's see, Dirge, and looks like, I think, who was that one? Goldbug? I don't know. Let's see. So, the issue starts out with a whole bunch of different scenarios where Power Station Alpha is now causing havoc all over the world. It's underground, it's causing tremors, it's activating volcanoes, it's melting the polar ice caps, it's doing all sorts of horrible, horrible things all around the world, starting waves and tsunamis and destroying pretty much everything until the world finally gets destroyed. And the issue is called Ashes to Ashes. And so Power Station Alpha is causing all of that to happen. But this is just a scenario at this point, because what is going on here is Shockwave is telling Bombshell and Dirge what his plans are with Power Station Alpha. And he's explaining to them, what they're going to do is basically blow up the Earth, use that as a battery to send all of the power across the universe to repower Cybertron. They're interrupted by Ravage, who again can talk, and he tells them that COBRA is coming with Power Station Alpha. They're coming to deliver Power Station Alpha right to the Decepticons. Now, why they're doing that, and why they've made a tentative alliance with the Decepticons, I don't know. Because Dr. Mindbender put a bug on Dirge in the end of the last issue, issue number 2, so that he could listen in on what was happening with the Decepticons. And what he heard was this scenario, that the Power Station Alpha is going to be used to generate power for Cybertron. They're going to basically take all the power they can out of the Earth. Why they're still doing this, I don't know. But Serpentor meets Shockwave, and onlookers are the Dreadnoughts. We got Zartan over there with them, as well as Dr. Mindbender and the Baroness. Those are the people that are in this image, and then Laserbeak. And so Serpentor is, they're basically sizing each other up and underestimating each other at the same time. Serpentor decides that he's going to leave Dr. Mindbender there as a representative of COBRA Nation, so that he can oversee what's going on with Power Station Alpha. And then Shockwave turns right around and says, okay, well, Dirge is going to be our representative, and he's going to go with you. And now what I want you to do as COBRA is to go and attack the Autobot base. And again, it's this turn of events here that's going on, and they're not really too happy about it, but COBRA takes off. They fly off heading towards the Autobot base. The Baroness goes her separate way. She veers off because she has another mission to go on instead. We cut over to the Fort Lewis in Seattle, Washington, where the Joe team is, and they have GB Blackrock with them, and GB Blackrock is explaining all about the Transformers to them, and poor Bumblebee there, right there, being all spare parts and such. Then GB Blackrock basically kind of accuses them of overreacting and killing, an innocent, somebody who was good, one of the good guys. And so Mainframe tells him that, maybe he isn't dead. We don't know the physiology of the Transformers and all these parts put together. He may not actually be dead. We don't know exactly where his intelligence is inside this, all these spare parts. So possibly he may not be dead. And so then we hop over to the Ark. And at the Ark, what's happening there is the funeral for Optimus Prime, which we saw in the issue 26 of Transformers, which was yesterday's video. So we see Omega Supreme there, and then Blaster. In this one, Blaster gives most of the eulogy and talks about Optimus Prime, whereas in the issue 26, Perceptor does most of that. And Omega Supreme says that, you know, he's going to defend the Autobots and the Autobot base, as you know, with everything that he can. And then we cut back across the country to Virginia, where Hawk has been summoned to the Pentagon to talk about what happened with you know, Power Station Alpha, and he's thinking, all he can think about is Barbara Larkin, Senator Barbara Larkin. He's hoping that he can see her. At least that's one bright shining point of him coming to Virginia. And so as he is there, we cut back over on the other side of the country again, and we have Mrs. Durante and her son Anthony is going in for brain surgery to find out what that spot is on his brain. And the doctor's name, I believe, is Dr. McCarthy. McGrath. And Dr. McGrath is going to do all he can to save Anthony and remove what is going on in his head. We go back across the country again to Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C., Senator Larkin has just left a meeting with the Senate, and she is heading out for a very important appointment. She goes to a restaurant over here called Chez Cavalier, and she sits down and she has a meeting with someone, and they are discussing what happened with Power Station Alpha, and she's revealing that she knows that Power Station Alpha was dangerous, but she did it so that her constituents and her state would get money and jobs. And who is she speaking with? But the Baroness. So Senator Larkin was in cahoots with the Baroness and COBRA. She is being spied on as well, so there is somebody who sees this take place. And we'll see more about that in a little bit. So, excuse me, I'm going to flip to the next page. On the next page, we're back at the Autobot base, and this takes place after the events of issue 26, where the mechanic came in and attacked the Autobots. Now, the Autobots are standing outside of the base, and they see, or maybe they're inside, and their sensors indicate that an air fleet's headed this way, and Omega Supreme is going to defend the Ark with every microchip of his being. He's very determined to defend, and all of the Autobots say that they're going to stand strong to what is going on here. And it is a large contingent of aircraft from COBRA, including Serpentor and Dirge. And Omega Supreme, he takes out a bunch of aircraft single-handedly, just destroying all of them. And Dirge and Serpentor are hanging back. Dirge is content to let all of the COBRA forces, you know, soften up the Autobots or die in the process. He doesn't care. The rest of the Autobots are going to join in, and they're going to fight as well. Not that they really are needed, because Omega Supreme is doing all that he can. So at the Pentagon for Hawk's meeting, you know, a bunch of generals and stuff are talking there about Power Station Alpha and how dangerous it actually is. So, I mean, how does it even get to this point where they're saying that Power Station Alpha was so dangerous and nobody knew, but they still made it and all that, and so at this point they know. And Hawk gets the information that Senator Larkin is working with COBRA, and he is devastated because he's been falling in love with this woman, and you know, two issues ago. Back at the Ark, Serpentor and Dirge are circling the firefight that's happening, where all of the COBRA forces are getting destroyed by the Autobots, and finally, you know, Serpentor tells him that, you know, Dirge needs to go in and join the fight. And Dirge says, well, I haven't seen you been doing anything either. So they both go in to the fight. But what's significant here is there's a something that Serpentor is holding here. And as we get to the next part of this, the next page, we have Dirge. Oh no, it'll be in a bit. Okay, we'll come back to them. So we're setting up for Dirge and Serpentor to attack the Autobots as well. We cut over to a successful surgery on Anthony Durante. They've removed this microchip, or this little bug, in his brain. And meanwhile, at the same time, Dr. Mindbender is there with Bombshell, and he notices that a lot of modifications are happening to Power Station Alpha, and he asks about that. And Bombshell kind of waves him off as you know, I'm not gonna tell you anything about that. Meanwhile, Dr. McGrath starts poking and prodding at the Cerebro shell, and it starts to do some weird stuff to Bombshell. Bombshell starts to do, just all of a sudden, transform for no reason whatsoever, other than across the country, Dr. McGrath is poking around at one of his Cerebro shells, and he's doing all these crazy transformations. And Dr. Mindbender's, are you okay? And he says he's better go check out his circuits or whatever. And Dr. McGrath then gives a short time later, gives the bug to somebody in the government who obviously hates their job, because they are just saying that they hate their job and they hate their life and all that. Meanwhile, Dr. Mindbender is, he's wondering, what's happening, and maybe he's discovered a weakness to the Decepticons. Back at Fort Lewis, Mainframe and Crankcase are working on an item here, and what they're doing is they're trying to work on this, and they actually revive Bumblebee. And he's just this brain unit at this point, and his vocal unit. And so he's talking with Crankcase and Mainframe, and basically he explains to them everything, that he was trying to save that boy, and he explains about the Autobots, and since he's not dangerous at this point, they actually stop and listen, and they make sure that they need to now give a call to Hawk, because they're going to need to send out a recon unit to the Autobots to actually find out and confirm this story. Meanwhile, Hawk has gone to go see Barbara Larkin, and when she goes to see Barbara Larkin, that is the look on his face. He is livid. He is so angry with her. He even says that he loved her, and that's it. He's done. He's never going to see her again. Doesn't give him any time to explain or anything. Just, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with you. Back to the Ark. The firefight continues, and we've got Serpentor's ship and Dirge's ship, and Dirge is about to attack Omega Supreme, but Serpentor pushes a button which causes Dirge not to be able to fire. But what it does is it builds up the energy inside of him, and when he tries to fire again, he explodes into a million pieces. This gives Serpentor the opportunity to parlay with the Autobots and say, hey, look, we were only in cahoots with them for a while, but what's happening is we really need to work together with you, because the Decepticons, they're going to try to destroy the Earth. And so, the enemy of my enemy. Meanwhile, Hawk is feeling very sorry for himself, and he's drowning himself with some alcohol, some cigarettes, and all those great things for a kid's comic book, where he's there and he's drinking and he's feeling bad about himself, and he gets a phone call. He's like, I'm just going to wave that off. But he doesn't wave it off. It is Mainframe or Crankcase. Either one of them is calling, and they're talking to him, and they explain to him all about the Transformers and the good guys and what happened there. And he's like, he's second guessing his shoot first, ask questions later attitude. And back at the Decepticon base in the Keys, at the Decepticon base, Power Station Alpha is lifting off, which wakes up Dr. Mindbender. He sees that now it's taking off, and so he sends out a communication to Serpentor, and when he does, it's the same time as the Joes are arriving overhead at the Ark. Serpentor is already, he's already made a deal with the Autobots, and he gets this message from Dr. Mindbender, and he says, he understands what Dr. Mindbender is telling him, which is that the Decepticons, they, their plan, they've already launched the plan into action, and they're going to destroy the Earth. And so it's up to COBRA, the Autobots, and G.I. Joe to stop them. So COBRA and the Autobots reach an agreement, and at the same time the Joes hear that and they intercept the message, so they know what the stakes are, and they are now going to be working together with COBRA and with the Autobots, at least for the time being, until they take out, until they thwart the plans of the Decepticons. Hopefully, because if they don't, then the Earth is going to completely perish. Anyway, this is Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Big Damn Kid. You can also find me at BigDamnKid.com, where I do a full write-up of the issue. And you can find me here because I do videos every day of the different comic books. There's one more. Tomorrow I'm going to have up the conclusion to this story, because what happens in the Transformers after this is basically after the events of this anyway. So we're going to go back to G.I. Joe and the Transformers number 4 tomorrow, and then we're going to go back to our regular Transformers comic books after that. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'd love it if you leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And, well, again, I said thanks for watching.